there are two things. One is there are a lot of frauds, and this is very, very hard to fight. And I mean, we get every single day someone trying to, I can write a book on what happened. I think I will write a book one day, and I should, yeah. And so I think we will find a way to, we learn and we share more of this experience because other people will not fall into that. And
Right.
the other one is we will stop following for only price, and that's the main topic in all the DeFi and all many projects. While I think we need to be more, what can I get other than price? Because at the end of the day, there's I don't have anything against speculation, but
Right.
I think people should start uh, getting more interested in what's behind the price. What
Right.
is also technology, also into why Bitcoin is so interesting, why self custody, why it's important to have an asset with a limited supply, and why our economy is broken.
Good morning, guys. I'm your host, Mark Anthony Hill II, partner here at London York. We're a private family fund. On today's show, we're going to have Enrico Rubbolo, the CEO of Mintlayer. Enrico is a Bitcoiner, a seasoned software development professional with over 25 years of experience, who currently serves as the CEO of Mintlayer. Prior to founding Mintlayer, Enrico has worked with known names in the crypto space such as Bitfinex and Tether, and we're going to dive deep into that today. Don't want to waste any of your time, so without further ado, we'd like to welcome Enrico to the podcast. Thanks for stopping by, Enrico.
Hi, thank you, thank you everyone for being here.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in. And just to give a little background to everybody who's listening to the cast and hasn't heard about you or Mintlayer yet, can you tell us a little bit about your background and where you first learned about Bitcoin and crypto?
Well, I think it was 2011 when I heard about Bitcoin the first time. As a software engineer, I'm always curious. So this thing that was happening, and I had no idea how it was working. And I remember I downloaded the software, tried to dig into it, dig into the code and stuff. At the beginning, it was just a toy, right? And it was nothing serious. I think didn't even have a price back then. So it was just a good idea and an interesting idea. I started mining with my computer, actually, like with my GPU at some point. Yeah, I got one of the first ASICs that was like a black box like that. Was
Yeah.
one of the first that was shipped. And yeah, the difficulty back then was spiked so quickly that the first days was doing a great job, but then after a month or so was not able to do anything. Basically, it was just a heating box.
Wow. So you started
Yeah.
out originally as a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you
Oh,
started
but just for for trying out and passion, not professional. Yeah, yeah.
So you started out, hey, what's this thing, Bitcoin? Let me see if I can get a little A6 box, see if I
Yeah,
can
exactly.
mint a little bit of it or mine some, and just figure what this thing is out.
Uh,
And figure
and
it is.
actually, the energy that was it was more expensive than what was getting from it, right? So it was
Really?
just yeah. I mean, from my house, it's the normal. You don't have anything. It was more expensive than just buying at some point, right? In 2012, 2015.
Yeah. So you started out on the Bitcoin side, and then where did you start progressing? Is that where you started moving into Bitfinex and Tether?
Oh, that
Because
was. Yeah, that was
Cool.
2016.
Okay.
I remember I met Paolo in London, and yeah, so I joined the team, and there are many things to do. I worked on part of the Bitfinex part and Tether. I helped one of the uh, mm, last thing I did. I think I'm staying stayed with the team for a couple years.
Okay.
One of the last thing was basically moving Tether from Bitcoin, because at the beginning was running on Bitcoin with Omni to Ethereum, right?
Okay.
At the beginning, this idea of tokenization, colored coin was proposed for Bitcoin.
Okay.
It was too complicated. It was too hard to manage, and so it didn't really work. And we have Ethereum now that is the leader in this.
Absolutely. So that time at Bitfinex and that time at Tether, did that start to spark some of those ideas that ended up turning into Mintlayer?
Yeah, I kind of felt guilty for that, and no, it's a joke. And yeah, no, and yeah, no, Mintlayer comes with the idea of Mintlayer is exactly that, right? So taking the tokenization back to Mintlayer in a way that um, we had some principle, and we wanted to design something following these principles, and this is the product that we ended up building.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Now go ahead.
no, go.
Yeah, I was going to ask for those who have no idea about Mintlayer and they don't know exactly what it does, can you just take a couple minutes and explain Mintlayer
Yeah.
itself and why it's a need for Bitcoin sidechain?
So one of again, everything comes from this set of principle, right? One of this principle is that we don't want to one is we don't want to pollute Bitcoin. So we think that Bitcoin chain should be for Bitcoin only. And another principle is, so we don't want to write anything specifically into the Bitcoin chain except Bitcoin transactions.
Yep.
um, and another principle is, when it comes to tokenization, we don't want to compromise the security of our Bitcoin. So your Bitcoin are secured by the most secure network that we have, for sure, the most secure blockchain that we have in at the moment, and we don't want to compromise that using wrap version of Bitcoin, right? So many options are, you send your Bitcoin into a federation or something. There are several different options. Uh,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, there is someone that uh, is like a custodian or semi-custodian solution, where they have your Bitcoin, they replicate the Bitcoin on the side chain, and then you do whatever you want. Okay, and then but at the end of the day, there is someone that is keeping custody of this Bitcoin, right?
Correct.
um, and it's okay. It's a trade-off, right? It's the Bitcoin on the other side are surely faster, less fee, whatever. It makes sense, right? I don't have anything against that, but I think the trade-off needs to be explicit. And I think that, so when you use the wrap version, you need to clearly understand that you are doing that. And since there is this concept of atomic swap, with cross-chain atomic swap,
Yes.
we designed Mintlayer so that it's as interoperable as possible with Bitcoin. So it's using the same, it's very similar to Bitcoin in sense that is, I don't want to go too technical, but let's say it's very similar as an architecture to Bitcoin. And the you can swap your Bitcoin to any asset that is issued on Mintlayer in a way that is atomic. So let's say that I have USDT, I have a stable coin, and you have Bitcoin, and we want to trade, right? We can do it in an atomic way. So the transaction goes or fail for both of us, and we didn't lose anything. So because it's true transaction, right? So one is anchored to the other, so that it goes or it doesn't go, and it's cross chain, so it's happening in two separate chains, right? And this way your Bitcoin are secure, right? They're not leave the Bitcoin network, they are staying, and they're not leaving your wallet until you are completed this transaction. Obviously, there are also consequences, right? So the Bitcoin network is more expensive because a transaction on Bitcoin is, well, nothing compared to Ethereum now, because Ethereum now is more expensive. But surely then it's more expensive than many other chains, right? And it's lower because that the average is 10 minutes. Every block is 10 minutes. You have to wait more than one block because it's depending on the size. Maybe you want to wait more. So a transaction might take a long time. That's the trade-off. So the atomic swap between Bitcoin and an asset and a stable coin on Mintlayer, using that will take more time. It's slower, but it's more secure. If you want to do something faster, maybe you want to use the wrap version, right? So, but this is again, is a trade-off. It's explicit, and you have the option.
But it allows for security on the Bitcoin network, and it allows you to not have to wrap your tokens, which, as someone who's traded and done a ton of different swaps, having to wrap your Bitcoin is never cool. Um,
Exactly.
so I'd rather be able to just go direct. That's what was so interesting to me about Mintlayer, and that was one of the reasons I invested. So, guys, as always, full disclosure, I am an investor and a staker. Um, but that brings up another interesting point, Enrico, because Mintlayer actually allows for DeFi on Bitcoin. So can you talk to the audience about why that's important in general, and why it's important for Bitcoin users around the world to have DeFi finally being available to be
Yeah.
built on the Bitcoin network?
So first, we need to understand what DeFi is, because I think Bitcoin is the first example of decentralized finance,
I
because
agree.
it's is the most is an asset and is the most decentralized that we have. Um, why it's important? Because I think that as a Bitcoiner, right, and I want to maybe diversify my portfolio, right, buying something else. I don't know, gold token that represent gold or whatever. The Today, if I want to do that, I have to go through a central exchange. There are no other options, right? Um, Using this system, right? You can do it directly with your Bitcoin, and that's why it's important, and it unlocks a market that is what is today is $1.7 trillion. So I mean, that's why.
Makes perfect sense. I think
Yeah.
that's Enrico. I think that's a really good segue into something that we talked about before we started taping, which actually was around tokenized assets. And there's just been this big push. Obviously, Larry Fink's been pushing heavy from BlackRock since the ETFs have launched, and he's been championing for ETH ETFs and possibly other chain ETFs. And his thing that he says over and over is, we're going to tokenize the world's assets. Um, and that's very interesting with what Mintlayer does. So as tokenized assets will be, one of the largest shifts in finance, Mintlayer makes tokenizing real world assets a real thing. Are there any upcoming partnerships with real world asset projects or other groups that you guys have been talking to work on
We
that?
have several there. I cannot disclose, but we can say that. one of the thing that we are working is a platform for that. This is specifically for institutionals that wants to tokenize real world asset. What is their main problem, right? Their main problem is they don't know how this our world works, and we need to provide them an easy solution that for them for the compliance, basically, right? Because regulation is complicated, and they have to go through a lot of complicated nonsense. Let me tell you, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's really.
I'm sure you've seen all
Um,
the nonsense.
and we need to bridge these two words, right? So they have to use a platform that it talks their language. So this platform allow them to create and allow the compliance using their rules, using their systems, and speaking basically their language mostly. And they can, using that platform, they can issue bonds, they can issue other kind of tokens, they can basically do whatever the compliance requires, which is not really decentralized and what we aim for most of the time, but this is rules, and there's nothing we can do about it. So that's it. But the idea is, we do one step at a time, and maybe one day we can create all this complexity that today is made by rules into code. That would be the ideal scenario, right? Because with code we can actually solve many problems that today are solved by human and rules.
Absolutely. What now that you've been something you brought up in your answer, that it has been an interesting process and it's a lot of bureaucracy to kind of get through to some of these real world asset projects. What do you realistically think will be a time frame where we actually start to see some real world assets actually being brought on chain? Because it's a lot of talk about it, but
Yeah.
as far as when is this actually going to happen? You being right on the front lines, what's your opinion?
I,
Where do you kind of see this going?
I, I know there are a lot of experiments actually running. So I think it's starting. I don't know when it will happen. Obviously, I think it's a matter of few years. I mean, we have the MiCA that technically solved that in Europe. The States, I have no idea. I think they made a law. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the States. In
A
the
lot of
UAE,
politics.
sorry.
No, you said what's going on in the United States. I said a lot of politics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I read about Biden vetoing the recent law that.
I
So
know
yeah, no,
that's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. Um, so that's an unknown direction, right, for the States. But I mean, there are many other options and many other countries that are also experimenting. At the moment, it's just it's a let's see what happens, right? This is the current stage. Let's see if we do it, what happens. There are many institutions interested. Um, Even in Italy, I can tell you there are many important institutions that are trying at the moment. So let's see.
Absolutely. I agree completely on that. And you answered a question that I had coming up, which was about Mintlayer working with institutions. So you already kind of covered that. Um,
Um,
one, yeah, absolutely. One thing I did want to bring up too, when we were talking about uh, your roadmap. So you guys have been really pretty consistent as far as the roadmap's concerned. I know in Q3 you guys had plans for the Bitcoin atomic swaps, which we talked about. Um, can you talk a little bit more about atomic DeFi? Because I know that
yeah,
is rolling out underneath Mint Layer. So can you give a little background to our audience about atomic DeFi and what
yeah.
that looks like
So,
first?
w- w- so Zaid, which is the leader of Atomic DeFi, was part of Mintlayer. And I realized that there were this need of separating, the team that is working on the blockchain and the core infrastructure with a team that is actually creating the DEX and building the ecosystem. So this is what Atomic DeFi is going to do, so that we can focus on the blockchain, on the improving what we're doing. We are currently working. Just to give you I don't know if it's but we're currently working on a ZK rollup layer on top of Mintlayer, so that you have Bitcoin, you have Mintlayer, and on top of that, you have the ZK rollup that helps scaling up Mintlayer, but also implementing the EVM compatible architecture, so that you can actually run Turing complete smart contract on top of that. That is very interesting.
Let me ask you,
And
can I ask
yeah,
something about that? Because what you said is very interesting. And
yeah,
I just want to clarify, does that mean that that's the layer three?
yeah, correct. Yeah,
Got you. Okay. Okay.
exactly.
Let me make sure I heard that correctly, because when you were breaking down each part, I'm like, oh, so this is actually a real layer three, and now I see why would there would be a need for it.
Yeah, because Mintlayer, the idea is it needs to be rock solid. We wanted to do something that is, there are a lot of blockchain that are competing in speed. I want to do a millisecond transaction. I want to do 1,000 transactions per second. We want our Mintlayer is running on a Raspberry Pi, and we want to keep Mintlayer running on a $30 computer. And
Right.
we want their node to be very light, right? And so that is the only way to have it very distributed, very easy to run, and so on. And we want to keep it this way, so that you cannot do a lot of things, right? One of the things that we are not doing is Turing complete smart contract, because it's very heavy, intensive, right? Change also our model, the fee model will require the changes in fee model. So we didn't want to do anything on this layer. But with the third layer, right, you have the option to have something that is more scalable, because rollups basically, I don't know if you know how it works. Basically, you compose like imagine you write all the transaction, and at some point you roll back into a final state, and you save the final state every now and then, right, into another layer. And there's a verifier, so that you can keep proving that whatever you did is valid.
Right.
So and here on top of that, we can be Turing complete. That is a good trade-off, right? Again, it's the right place to have it. So yeah, I mean, we're focusing on that, while Zaid is working on the user interface, because to be honest, the usability, the user experience can be improved a lot at the moment, like the wallet and everything we're doing. So another team just keep focusing on that, and keep focusing on the ecosystem with the launch pad, and everything is probably the best idea.
Perfect. And you guys do have a growing ecosystem, and you guys have a definitely an active Telegram community. So
Yeah,
I've joined it myself, which says a lot, because you'll have different projects where it's just dead. There's not a lot of action. You can actually see there's stuff being built. There's people having questions. There's a lot of believers in the project. There's a lot of Bitcoiners that are
a lot of
excited.
hate as well, but it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that's good to see in a project, because I can see that there's people actually interested in what you guys are doing, which tells me a lot about the work you guys have put in. Um, One thing that I saw that was interesting for the roadmap on Q3 is that you guys had planned to launch Bitcoin lending and borrowing.
Yeah,
So does that also mean we'll see a bigger push on Mint layer staking? Because I'm staking already, but It's
I think this will happen on the layer 3. So because it's easier to do it on the layer 3. So, and we'll be probably part on the UI, we'll probably be part of Atomic actually.
got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that lending and borrowing, let me ask you this because that was probably some of the things that got heated up in the last uh, prior to the last crash, was a lot of DeFi activity. With it being on Bitcoin and being able to lend and borrow, um, do you think that there'll be any issues with like over leverage or stuff like that, or are you guys just saying, hey, we're not going to allow
Uh,
for this type of leverage? It's really just going to be
um, it depends on the design. I mean, the basic architecture is not is not defining any limit. Obviously, we can impose some limit on the let's say the wallet, right,
yes,
for security. But then you can overcome. I mean, you can bypass the limit anytime, just making more wallet. Just thinking out loud at the moment. So
yeah, yeah,
whatever
absolutely,
you do in a decentralized system is very easy to bypass this, probably. So I don't know. I don't have a real answer to that. Obviously, the problem exists, and
right, right,
and
right, and
and that's why I think that we need real world asset actually, because
right,
they have a value, right? And you can never fall under the real value of the asset you have. You
yes,
can have the economy that grows, and maybe you can have bubbles, as like in every economy, like stocks that are overvalued, and it happens everywhere, right?
yes,
But at the end of the day, you have something that you will never see. Oh well, it's not true, but it's hard to see a minus 99% fall, because at the end of the day, you have something, right? Even if you have a company that's tokenized, right? They at the end of the day, they have assets. They have a building, for example. They have whatever. So um, that create. I think the solution to these bubbles that we have in DeFi
yeah,
is bringing real world asset and merging the real world finance with the DeFi.
DeFi. So your thoughts is, hey, the tying in of the assets to or bringing the real world assets on chain will help that issue because it'll actually be backed by a hard asset, if you will.
One, yeah, and again, the problem is always, the limit at the moment is only the regulation. So when we will see a regulation that will help, and that, then it will be very interesting. We live in a very
I
interesting moment.
I think you're right about that, and this kind of helps me segue to something because you're in Dubai, is that right? As a
At the moment, I'm in San Marino, but we are between Dubai and San Marino. Yeah.
as a marina. How is it working in Dubai as far as
Um,
and in San Marino?
it's complicated because there are many. In Dubai, there are many free zones. There are many jurisdictions. So it depends where you are. You can do something. For example, you have, the um, there are two free zones. One is the one in Dubai, the financial free zone in Dubai, and the other in Abu Dhabi. They have special rules, but there's IFTA, which control the rest of the UAE. So it depends on where you are. But yeah, they're moving on that direction for sure. They're trying, and I think. For example, there are pros and cons. There are many things you can do. There are many things you can't. At the moment, for example, we explored the nice idea of or tokenizing real estates, right? For example,
Yes,
but the problem with the real estate is that they have the Homeland Department that keep track of the who is the beneficiary, right? So you cannot really tokenize that. You have to do complicated stuff that increase the cost and stuff. So you can basically tokenize a fund, but you cannot tokenize directly the real estate. But I think they are thinking about that, and I don't know if they find a way to tax that. Probably they will do that because the problem is taxation all the time.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We're down to the last couple of questions here. Mintlayer is interoperable with the Lightning Network. So I wanted to know, are there any plans for future collaborative initiatives between Mintlayer and Lightning Network companies like Strike or anything like that?
The HTLC is a smart contract that allows the interoperability with the Lightning Network. Is currently implemented, but is not merged. There's a pull request, and it's the same one that will be used for the atomic swap with Bitcoin. So it served two purposes. Um, so far, we put on hold our research on the Lightning Network because we opted for the ZK rollups, right? Um, I think we will keep waiting until we see a proper evolution on the Lightning Network side at the moment.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
because it's for payment, and at the moment is very good for payment and micropayment. But I don't think at the moment is very. We can see, but for micropayment, for transactions and DeFi, maybe it's not ideal, and the Zcash is better. But we keep this monitored, and it's very interesting to see what is going on.
Absolutely. And one question I
And
had, because go ahead.
no, I mean we have a limited, engineering team, and we can only do one thing at a time, right? So.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I get that. And you guys are taking on one of the biggest things to be done, which is bring DeFi to Bitcoin. So that's a
Yeah.
very big task to undertake. Um, and with that, as the value of Bitcoin continues to grow, um, what effect do you think that'll have for Mintlayer, the ecosystem, and like developer growth as the value of
Yeah,
Bitcoin is right?
I think it's. I mean, I see a huge potential for Bitcoin. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, obviously, and obviously that will reflect on the whole ecosystem of Bitcoin, and not just, I mean, for Mint layer, but all for the all layer two, for Lightning and everything. I really hope that Lightning will actually get more usage, because at the moment it's very hard to find even a shop where you can pay for that. At least I heard that. I've never been in El Salvador, but I heard that it's very popular now, and I hope we can replicate that everywhere, because it's very interesting. And but at the moment, it's very. I don't know. I live in Europe and in Dubai, and it's very hard to find even shop that accept Lightning Network. So I did it. I did it, but you have to go there because you know that they are doing it. Right? So um,
I do think it's still a while and it needs a lot more user adoption.
absolutely, yeah, and
Yeah,
I really hope that this will you know, uh, grow more, and with the rest of the ecosystem. And there's a lot to do. We have a lot of problems to solve, like in usability, key management. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's need for more developers absolutely everywhere in the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. And I think that DeFi on the ecosystem will bring maybe even more developers from the other chains as well, hopefully.
I think you're right. I think it will. I think because DeFi is something where people are like, okay, I can do my own financing over here and I can do it on Bitcoin. I think that should bring the type of people we need um, to get some more user adoption. Um, and piggybacking off of that, I wanted to ask you, these are the last two questions I had. Over the next 2 to 3 years, I don't want to go 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Over the next 2 to 3 years, 24 to 36 months, what are the biggest things on the table for Mintlayer that you'd like to get accomplished or that you'd like to see, unfold?
I really hope that we can bring real world assets and a nice, a very good ecosystem in terms of DeFi tools with everything that is. I'm envy of what happened with on Ethereum, right, and the other chains, because there are a lot of they did a very good job, and there are a lot of interesting experiments. I hope that we keep experimenting, we keep improving, finding new ideas and finding new solution, improving that, and I really hope that we will build an ecosystem that is complete, and it's complete with real world assets as well. That's
Absolutely.
my wish. That's it.
Not a bad wish. And the last question will round the cast out today. Um, Over the next 3 to 5 years, just where do you see, our culture and crypto going? You
I
see,
hope it will
math,
be more stable
okay,
and more into less speculation in terms of I see that. So there are two things. One is there are a lot of frauds, and this is very, very hard to fight. And I mean, we get every single day someone trying to, I can write a book on what happened. I think I will write a book one day, and I should, yeah. And so I think we will find a way to, we learn and we share more of this experience because other people will not fall into that. And
right,
the other one is we'll stop following for uh, only price, and that's the main topic in all the DeFi and all many projects. While I think we need to be more, what can I get other than price? Because at the end of the day, there's I don't have anything against speculation, but
right,
I think people should start uh, you know getting more interested in what's behind the price, what
right.
is
What's
also technology, also into why Bitcoin is so interesting, why self-custody, why you know why it's important to have an asset with a limited supply, and why our economy is broken, right? So
right? So
there are
you're
a lot of
no, a lot of people in this space don't ask those types of questions. It's win token and why is it not pumping?
Yeah,
That's
exactly. I mean, it's normal, and it's okay. As I said, you enter for the speculation. I hope they will stay for the revolution.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, that's probably the best way to end it. That's the day for the revolution. Um, yeah, so I'd like to thank you for joining us today on the Culture and Crypto podcast. Enrico, you've been an amazing guest. You're building an amazing company. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with Mint Layer, Atomic DeFi, the first layer three. I'm
Uh,
truly excited to see what you guys build, and we'd love to have you back on the cast sometime soon.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Enrico.
Cheers.
Have a good one, guys.